We're live with Gainz podcast for another fun, exciting adventure with yours truly, Roman Long and Antoine Coletta.
Yeah, it'll be nice. Hopefully, I mean the last podcast was actually pretty long. It's like 43 minutes, 44 minutes. So hopefully, if people tuned in, hopefully they'll be like, all right, maybe get back to the short ones. Or if you guys liked it, maybe Roman and I could talk about like extending them maybe like 15, 20 minutes. So, which I mean, we never have a problem. It's it's mostly because we pay out of pocket, and I think the company we use, Buzzsprout, which I don't mind sharing. I don't think Roman cares about sharing, but they like have like these I guess levels of payment. So Roman and I pretty much pay for like this level of payment, and they allow you to only produce like a certain amount of hours per month. So so if anyone ever has any solutions, or if they have like any other like audio hosting, because like YouTube doesn't care, obviously. So like if we put a YouTube video out, like YouTube doesn't care. But like if you guys have any like audio like hosting websites that allows you to save like your audio files too, that's like the good thing about Buzzsprout, is they save like all our episodes. And some hosting audio sites were like, hey, we'll save them for like 6 months, and then they'll start deleting like the older ones and like cycling through them. So that's why we chose it. And yeah, so if you guys have any ideas, let me know.
What we're trying to say, Gainz Nation, is your boy Roman and Antoine need to get paid. So we're
Yeah.
going to come out with a proprietary one-time access code for event at a future time, which will cost a ridiculous amount of money, which will require you to wire transfer those funds to an offshore account. So be on the lookout for that, because we're going to have information pending that exciting experience.
Yeah, and also too, I know Roman's being sarcastic and joking around. Buzzsprout does allow us to set up like they actually just released it. I didn't really look into it yet, but they just released like it's like a club offering. Like, so you know how like some podcasts, they'll do like, hey, if you pay like $2 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever it is, like here's like the special content for you. So if you guys do want to see that, honestly, this just popped up in my head. Hopefully no one steals this idea, or maybe if you guys are interested, maybe Roman and I can make like little cameo videos if like there's a special access club of like motivating like video clips that we can send you personally. Obviously not through like text message, because we don't want to have like our numbers pop out, but like maybe videos if like you are down in your motivation, or if you need like a pep talk, or like a cheer to get you through your workout or through your your fitness endeavors. So that would be pretty cool. I like I said, that thought just came in my head, but yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, if that was something that people were like willing to like
Pay for.
yeah, compensate for, yeah, I mean, most certainly. And that's well within our purview, like as like personal trainers, like in the past, because I let my certification lapse. Like that is exactly what we're like here for, and that's what we hope, like that the overarching message is to get out more realistic information to individuals about like health, fitness, nutrition, because there's a lot of noise out there, and I won't ever like claim to be an expert until maybe potentially one day I am. I most certainly am not one now, but the amount of time and effort that Antoine and I have put into learning about this industry, I think it helps us to identify where there might be some like maybe snake oil salespeople, or maybe just some like misguided information, or information used in like inappropriate means or ways. So yeah, no, I love it, buddy.
I like the word inappropriate. We should have like an inappropriate session with the Gains podcast. Um, but no, no, honestly, before we start, Roman, because I definitely know you have some content that you want to get to. The only thing I want to say before we start is, man, lifting without training for a marathon is like absolutely beautiful. It's very motivating and it's nice. I'm gonna be posting a video, so this might be on Instagram by the time this video posts. We'll see. I might post it the day before we upload this podcast. But like today, I did a hex bar, trap bar, whatever you call it, deadlifts, because I just got my first leg tattoo on my leg, so I didn't want to do barbell deadlifts until that heals because I just don't want the bar rubbing against my thigh. But I did trap bar, hex bar, hexagon bar, whatever you want to call it, deadlifts, and I hit 425 for like an easy single.
Hey, buddy.
No straps, no belt or anything. So I'm pretty happy about that. I had a rest day yesterday, and I did eat quite a bit, like to my calories that I tracked. But I did weigh 202 yesterday, or this morning, sorry, 202. So with me thinking because of the rest day and maybe the extra, and we did have like frozen pizza last night for dinner. I think I'm sitting between like 200 and 202, which is about 3 pounds up from like the marathon. So yeah, I think it's been nice to even gain 3 pounds and like lift with 3 pounds on me.
Yeah, heck yeah, buddy. No, it's awesome. Yeah, you're starting to like fill out again. Yeah, it's probably still too early to know if like lifts are going up, but that's exciting. That's really exciting. Nice. Heck yeah.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to get to before we start the conversation today. So Roman, that's all happy and go lucky, but let's get into the topic so we can get some good time in, and then what are we talking about today, buddy?
Let's dive into the meat, or
potatoes,
the meatless, for those vegetarians. So today we wanted to chit chat with you about risk mitigation while weightlifting. Ooh, is this some sort of like clever insurance adjustment scheme?
Probably.
Pretty much what we want to you about is how like every time we pick up a barbell, whether it's we squat it, we deadlift it, we bench it, maybe we push it over our head, there's always going to be a risk involved, right? And we're not here to say like don't do that, right? Because there's risks in getting out of bed in the morning, risks in not getting out of the bed in the morning, there's risks in jumping in your car. But how do we mitigate, or how do we reduce those risks, or manage those risks, maybe more appropriate, so that we can move towards our goal in the weight room? And specifically, we're going to be talking about weightlifting. And I don't mean Olympic weightlifting. I mean resistance exercise training for bodybuilding purposes, powerlifting purposes, endurance activity purposes, but specifically weightlifting. So we're not going to be talking about mitigation strategy, risk mitigation strategies for like running, for example, or biking or swimming, nothing along those lines. This is going to focus solely on weightlifting. So hopefully that's an adequate definition. Is that clear the way I kind of laid that out, Antoine?
Yeah. I think what you're going to go through is like what types of risks, and then strategies around it, and then dealing with resistance training and weightlifting. And I actually have a really good new example that I can bring to the table after we get into it. But yeah, I think everything was clear and concise in my opinion. So
nice.
Easy enough to digest.
All right. Let us know if you have any questions about what we mean when we say risk mitigation regarding weightlifting. And we'll be happy to kind of spell that out, maybe in like more detail. So I wanted to provide an example of how I'm using this strategy in my current training. So one thing that I've had going on for a while is I still have this lingering like hernia or like lower left abdominal strain issue. It hasn't gotten better with not training. It hasn't gotten better with training. Sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's better. I wanted to get back into squatting. So one of my goals for the year is to be able to squat 135 by 10, pain-free. And the pain-free is, the next like day or so. Not soreness. If I was sore, then, whatever. But that's easy weight. That used to be a warm-up for me. And I still could rip that out. but I think I'd be very sore. I think that like lower left area on me would be, maybe like a little painful.
A little tender, yeah.
A little tender, a little more than I'd be willing to like, say as like, what I want to like accept on a day-to-day, for example. So there's a pain management aspect behind it. So what I've done is I started as low as I freaking could go. I think I squatted with like 45 pounds sometime sometime late last year, because I was prepping to get to this point, and I introduced like pressing and whatnot to simulate the squat, and that actually was fine. I was building up to like pretty impressive like press numbers again, so I was pretty stoked. So I started like very, 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 very low, and then over time I worked up to 135, and I did a single rep. It was super easy set. It was probably very minimally hypertrophic, and that is something that I'm working on as much as possible. When I train, my training focuses on bodybuilding and hypertrophy, so growing muscle size. So I want to grow the size of my legs. I want to grow the size, or my quads, my hams, my calves. So in order to do so, one of the movements I wanted to use for that was squatting. But is that squat going to be hypertrophic for me? Not necessarily, but it fills another goal. I just like squatting. So that's the that 135 by 10 pain-free. That's my goal for the year. I'm going to work on that. So I've got a long way to go, right? It's just it's January 25th today?
Yeah.
So I've worked up to 135 by 4. And there's a little bit of discomfort, not while I'm doing the squat, but sometimes like either slightly after or sometimes the next day. So I might have to work like pyramid back down. But I didn't go from, I believe today I'm capable of throwing 135 pounds on the bar and just squatting it, 10 times. And then it's like, boom, okay, well, goal's done. Like let's, increase the weight or whatnot. But my goal is to overall increase like my resiliency and being able to like work and effort towards this goal. So as opposed to just like going straight after it, I'm taking like baby steps. As Antoine, when he was training for the marathon, he might have been able to put in 26.2 miles, but he could have like injured himself. There could have been something else that happened, right? There's unforeseen risks. So the way he built up to that is, what did you start off at? Like,
I think like 2 miles maybe.
Okay, 2 miles.
Yeah.
Miles, and you took like a little over a year to get to that point too, didn't you?
Yeah, pretty much a year, I'd say.
So that was the example I wanted to provide of a risk mitigation strategy that I'm like implementing currently to like work towards my goal. Do it slow and steady, but hopefully win the race at the end of the day.
So if you're all done with that, Roman, one question to to get more of an example too. Are you taking steps like outside of the gym? An example, stretching, an example of like mobility, an example of like maybe breathing, because see, the thing is, with that area of injury, maybe like, I don't know, maybe core work might maybe build it up a little bit, or maybe mobility. So I'm obviously just giving you an example. Are you doing any of that stuff as well to get to that goal, pain-free 135 by 10?
A little bit. I could most certainly do more, but a little bit. So I'm very intentional with that area, with how I'll do things, and sometimes it's just like palpations. So like feeling around the area. Sometimes it's like a massage during like a warm shower or hot shower or something along those lines. Sometimes it might be implementing some slow and controlled core work that I incorporate. One thing that I definitely think that I could do more of is breathing work, but that is something that I focus on specifically while I'm squatting. So as I'm warming up the squat, specifically, I work on warming up my core through the use of the Valsalva maneuver. But I do it very sparingly, and it's not the way I would do it if I was bracing for like a 300-pound squat. I do it in a way to sort of like ease into that technique, if that makes sense. So I'm not clenching down as hard as I can right away. I clench down a little bit, if that makes sense. And then the set of warm-up squats, I'll do the same. So I could always do more for sure. With mobility work, sometimes I'll recognize, like if I'm doing like a Bulgarian split squat, for example, I'll recognize like, oh man, I'm not getting in as deep as I want to, or like I'm a little like off kilter. Like I probably should or could benefit from more mobility work. So it's not perfect. I could absolutely do more. But yes, some of those strategies I am implementing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wanted to make sure, like, to the listeners and people who are watching, just like, hey, just because, like, you know, there might be other things, and that's the only thing I think that I missed, like, understanding. So I just wanted to make sure. But yeah, breathing I think is probably important, especially for that injury, because like most of the time, it's like you were saying, it's like you can't really go on full bore with like a heavy squat and, you know, get into the Valsalva maneuver and do it as hard as possible like you used to, and it's just going to have to work into it. And that's why I had to ask, because I was just trying to see if you were doing like those, like, you know, breathing exercises, and like techniques to see if like it could potentially, you know, help the area. But no, that's awesome, buddy. I appreciate that. Yeah. So did you have anything else, or do you want me to go into like my example?
Yeah, no, it'd be cool. I think it would be like instructive for Gainz Station to kind of hear how you implemented it, especially with the like the marathon training. Like there's a whole lot of like.
So I did. Sorry to cut you off, buddy. I do want to talk about something else other than the marathon, because it's like fresh in my head, and like and I definitely I could talk about that, and I would love to talk about that, but I just wanted to keep it fresh with like another example, with like resistance training.
Okay, cool. Go.
So as you guys know, maybe I didn't mention on the Gainz podcast. Maybe I just mentioned the Roman. If I didn't, I'll just repeat it again. But my father-in-law just started like working out with us, and he just signed up at the gym at the end of December. So he probably hasn't even had the membership for a month yet. So because Roman provided that example with his injury, and we wanted to keep it towards like resistance training, that this is like the perfect example. So boom, risk mitigation. He's 65 years old. He has a somewhat physical labor job. You know, he's pretty in shape. Like he does a lot of housework. His job is somewhat physical. You know, he did, I think, like 30 years as an office job, or a little bit over 30 years in an office job, but retired and now working like full time again, for like the public works. So he's somewhat physical. They had, you know, some machines in the basement. So like he would do on and off workouts, but nothing to like what, you know, Roman and I would do. Obviously when Roman's fully healed, like what he would do, right? Especially towards like the powerlifting stuff. So, so to prior engage the knowledge of risk mitigation. So 65 hasn't really done like multi-joint exercises, really, not really in a while. And also to like the risk of injury, you know, with being a little bit older, and not being like really like knowledgeable about multi-joint exercises. An example, what I currently do, like, so like barbell squat, overhead press, deadlift, and farmer carry. So he definitely wanted to do more stuff that like Sam and I've been doing, and he wanted to, you know, obviously he's doing something slow, but I wanted to get the risk portion out of the way first. So, you know, obviously what personal trainers do and what people do is like mobility, movements first. And obviously, like if you guys watch the Brad Schoenfeld and Rhonda Patrick episode of that podcast with the or is it Fitness for Life or Found My Fitness podcast, you would know like Brad Schoenfeld went over like older population, especially like, and I see it too. Like I predominantly go to a gym that it's mostly retired folk. But you could see, and Brad Schoenfeld mentioned this in the podcast, most of the time they're doing a lot of machine exercises and cardio exercises. That's good and all, but what he really keyed in on is the idea is like your bone density is going to lower as you age, right? Your ability to balance, especially what I've noticed with the older population is like your balance is just not that great because a lot of the times older folk don't go through that range of motion. So it makes sense. So, but the whole idea is multi-joint exercises. There's some studies out there that show like, hey, it's not going to grow the best and most strongest bone density for the older population, but it's going to keep them on a more healthier aspect of things, and hopefully reduce like injury, reduce like pain, and also too, so that's out of the way, and also too, my father-in-law also had knee surgery on his right leg before, and so those are pretty much the risks. And he wanted to get somewhat in shape. He's already in shape, but he wants to get build muscle, and also too because he's getting a little bit older, he wants to just come with me and Sam, and like we've been lifting for over like 10-15 years. So it's like he wanted to come with us. Obviously, he wants to take the things slow, take the movement slow. So that's exactly what we're doing. So typical training session, Sam and I will probably hit, 15 to 25 sets, just depending on what we're doing, right? So it's like that's a typical, and that's like off the top of my head. Obviously, I could probably give you the actual details, but what he wants to do is do like maybe one or two movements, and then there's an indoor track. And what he's been wanting to do, and he hasn't been doing it outside, and since there's an indoor track and it's snowing out here in Chicago, he wanted to get back into like a little bit of jogging and running, which he hasn't really been able to do. Before the knee surgery, we used to do what Roman's been doing, but a little bit less obstacles. But he did like the Warrior Dash, which is like kind of like what Roman's doing, but I think it's a lesser obstacle focus. Like they have like probably like half the obstacles and then like a 5K. And he used to do that. Like he did it 10 years straight before they actually closed down the Warrior Dash. So like they don't do it anymore. So he like used to love running like 5Ks. And ever since the knee surgery, he just hasn't really tried it. And so before, like, obviously that's the risk right there. Boom, knee surgery. He can produce like knee pain. He's older, never went through multi-joint exercises. So those are some concerns, right? But he knows the overall goal. Like, hey, my bone density could be a lot more healthier. I can potentially lower he doesn't really experience too much knee pain, but like he could get back to somewhat normal. Obviously, like his doctor said, you shouldn't be running so much, but like now he's going to be able to get through two of the things that like, made him young, right? So he'll do one or two movements with us, and then what he'll do on the indoor track is like walk a couple laps, warm up, and then like jog, and like it's like a jog slight run for like one or two laps. And right there you could kind of see from like the walking and running piece is we're taking things slow. He's walking a couple laps before he even like thinks about jogging. So obviously he does have a somewhat labor job. So his legs are pretty much like warmed up by the time we go work out, because we go after he gets off of work. And so he still does the warm ups. He does I know I'm going all over the place, but
No,
before he does like the indoor track stuff, like he'll do the one or two movements with Sam and I. We always do a warm up of dynamic exercises. So even if he doesn't feel like lifting and does the indoor track, we still get him, Sam, and I a full body dynamic warm up. So that'll be arm swings, shoulder stretches, some back stretches. We'll do like TRX. We'll do some just basic like rows for just overall back of the shoulder, lats, warm those up. And then we'll do like leg kicks, and then we'll do like ankle rolls where we'll roll our ankle. We'll do some ham curls, body weight to get the hamstrings going. And then like sometimes we'll do like the hip circle, get the glutes engaged. So we do that before every exercise. And then, like I said, for the running portion or the jogging portion, he does walk like 1 or 2 laps, and then he'll jog 1 or 2 and then walk and then cool down. And then, um, and then after, I know I haven't gotten to the lifting portion, but afterwards, we'll do a cool down stretching session for about 5 to 10 minutes. So we're going through static stretching. So if you guys don't know the difference between dynamic and static, dynamic is more of like a movement stretching, like warming up, getting the joints ready, getting the blood flowing. Static is like the typical, like, regular stretch. Yeah. Stretch holding for like 30 seconds, quad stretch, basic like arm stretches and shoulder stretches, just to cool down and get the body cooled down. So those are 3 portions of the risk mitigation we have for him going on. And also we do it too. We just don't really do the indoor track because we usually go for like a dog walk, or I'll run on the treadmill, run outside. And then for the lifting portion, and like I said, this is why I wanted to do it, because it's like fresh in my head and it's ongoing and it's brand new. For the lifting portion, as you guys know, for my training, I've been doing full body for like a year and a half now. But all my full body training days is a bench, squat, deadlift, overhead press, or farmer carry / sled movement. And those are always first. So what's nice about that is, because I want him to go through multi-joint exercises, he'll typically do one of those with me. And then we'll go to like more hypertrophic movements, or sometimes another like powerlifting scheme thing. But before I get into that, like we'll do a multi-joint exercise first. So, and we haven't done, he hasn't done like all of them with me. Like he hasn't deadlifted with me or done like farmer carries or sleds with me. But we've had the chance to do overhead press, bench, and squat. So good news is, like I said, we're going slow on a lot of this stuff because we want to reduce injury. We want to reduce the risk of, hurting himself, or the motivation to get in the gym. The overhead press and bench went fine. We went through mechanics. It took us like a good 20 to 30 minutes to do like one set. And we did, most of the time, the overhead press, we just did a barbell to stay safe. We wanted to go through the movement. Benching, he actually did 85 pounds on the bench. So, wow. And because the fact that we did 20, 30 minutes of setting up, going over it, going really slow, he watched me. So we were able to do that in 30 minutes. The bad news is, not bad, it's more of an opportunity, I'd say, is we tried barbell squats. Remember, we did the 3 movements, barbell squats, and he couldn't get into the rack position. So pretty much the position where your arms are on the bar and then you put it behind your back. He couldn't get in that position pain-free. So there it is right there. So boom, because we've been doing this for a long time, I know not to put him in that position. So I didn't even let him get into the barbell position for the rack one time. So we're going to do some tests, but it looks like more or less that he needs to work on his like chest and back. He needs to do more like, what are they called? It's not myofascia, but it's pretty much, he needs to start getting into those deeper stretches with like one of like a massage balls, like in his chest and in his back, because what I'm seeing and what I'm thinking is, he might need to just loosen up some of the areas in his back and his chest. And because like I did widen his grip, and like obviously I'm going through different motions within how he racks or unracks the bar and gets the rack in. But something like that is like, hey, as someone that has been in the gym for 10 plus years, like I know like, hey, he shouldn't be doing that right now. Right. So I realized that, and we're going to keep working on this, and we're going to keep getting him better. But he was able to, because he couldn't do a barbell back squat. Samantha actually showed him how to do a goblet squat. So he was able to get a goblet squat, a couple sets in for a goblet squat, and like, hey, just because he couldn't do a barbell back squat didn't mean he didn't do a squat that day. So that goes to show like today's topic and like how to understand two examples: Roman's injury and an older population slash a newbie in the gym, right? So those are two risky situations. What Roman's goal and then what my father-in-law. So hopefully that's some good strategy and some good steps to hopefully give you guys. Roman, did you have any questions before I'm done talking? And then maybe, because we're probably going to have to end this because we're just over time.
Yeah. Let's real life troubleshoot really quick.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about, instead of bench press next time it goes around, what about a machine pec fly?
So we actually did get him. We actually have done dumbbell chest press, and then a hammer strength chest press as well. And then we haven't done cable flies with him, but definitely will do that. And yeah, also to describe some of the like it wasn't perfect, but we got him in that position. The one thing like I've noticed with him with like chest movements too is and I know Roman, you're probably talking about like the stretching position.
Yeah.
In that portion, as I'm trying to re-answer this, but I've noticed his shoulders kind of leave off like his position when he does chest movements, which we've been fixing, and I've been making sure he's not doing it. But like what Roman's talking about is the stretch within the chest with the bigger range of motion with the cable fly. And yes, I probably will be doing that too.
I would use that as a test to identify, and then
see if the chest does need more work too as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously combine that with like the myofascial release, if you're like spot on that, with like a lacrosse ball or something like that. Or he can try and foam roll, just try and like get a foam roller up here.
Yeah, so we did. Yeah. So we did do I probably should have said that. We did a little bit of foam roll at the gym. But I think most of the time, because we're not at the gym for like 2-3 hours. I think most of the stuff I want him to do after working out, when we're like relaxing, chilling after dinner, before bedtime stuff, because I think it just needs more work. And I also have a foam roller, and we also have like a pretty hard, like, I don't know what kind of ball it is, but it has like little indents everywhere, but it's like solid as a rock. So I'm gonna get him to do that stuff at home too. And also too, I have him doing like the Steffi Cohen posted it, the stretch where you put him pretty much put like a weighted, sometimes there's like a weighted, it's not a bar, but it's like one of those like straight like pieces of like poles, but pretty much behind your like tricep, and then you hold the pole like kind of opposite of your hand, and then like yeah. So I'm trying to do multiple ways, like Dr. Andy from Squat University does suggest not to do those, but to do more of the myofascial release in the chest and the lats. So I'm going to just do all three, and just hopefully that helps get him in that rack position. But yeah.
Yeah, the last thing I was going to say is, what are your thoughts on some sort of, so this would be kind of attacking it like antagonist, like agonist, but doing some sort of like a cable. Yeah, cable rear delt fly.
Yeah.
And allow him to decide the range of motion, but that way he's strengthening the rhomboids, a lot of like upper back musculature, that hopefully would allow him to be, to test. Obviously, this is if he wants to barbell squat, but if he wants to, these are like appropriate steps to build to the point to be able to like rotate the shoulders enough to be able to get into this position, right?
Yeah, and also too, I know we're over in time, but like one of my good buddies did mention, like, which is like cool to get good ideas, and like Roman's obviously given good ideas and whatnot, but like they have a hammer strength squat. You know, you've seen it where it's like you can go with the padding or without the padding, where like technically you don't need to get in a rack position, but it's almost like a back squat or a front squat. So I'm gonna maybe try one of those too, because see the thing is too, like what a lot of people don't realize with these multi-joint exercises, and we've talked about it so much, is there's so much going on, and you know I want to make sure he's doing it right every time. So eventually he gets the confidence where if like I'm not there, he knows how to do it. Like
Yeah.
like and it's like crazy. It's like you don't even realize until you do these exercises how much is going on. Like I even showed him how to get rid of a bench press weights if for some reason he didn't have a spotter. So
Yeah.
it's like the little things like that you don't realize that like you don't think about it all the time because like it's already programmed. Um, but like I showed him like, hey, if you're by yourself, don't have a spotter on the bench, and like say if you want to go a little bit heavier, just don't put clips on the bar. And I showed him like the tactic of like throwing the weights off the one side, then throwing the weights on the other side. But like, you know, it's just like stuff like that. Obviously, that's going away from the topic of today. So I'm gonna stop here. Anything else, Roman, you want to talk about?
No, that's all good. Or do dumbbells instead. I would say
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
still
and dumbbells is challenging too. And he's trying to get used to it, but like it's like that motion of making sure everything balances out, which is like a lot different than a barbell with like, you know, with balance and whatnot. But like overall, like he's a pretty strong guy still. Like he's pretty lean. Like when he does bicep curls, like there's veins on his forearms and biceps. You know, and like, you know, and thankfully he's in that position, but like, you know, he knows he needs to work on stuff like that, and it's not going to be easy, but like, you know, and that's like the good thing about the situation is he's like willing to challenge himself and not be scared. It just, you know, like I said, try to make it as easy as possible and smooth as possible and not rushing things. So
yeah, he's got a great trainer. Good work.
I hope. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But all right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to share. Make sure to follow, follow us on Instagram. Message us on Instagram if you need any help with anything. And then we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.